My name is Kirsten MacLeod, and I'm a lecturer in Victorian and Modernist Literature in the School of English Literature, Language and Linguistics at Newcastle University. My current research focuses on a body of artistically experimental and socially radical American magazines that flourished in the 1890s. These quirky, offbeat publications that emerged in the hundreds in this period are the precursors to what we would now call little magazines. Indeed, they were the forerunners of the avant-garde modernist periodicals of the 1910s and 1920s, the zines of the 60s, and even somewhat blogs of today. There's been very little scholarly attention on these magazines, partly because of their inaccessibility, so my research task is large. Earlier this year, I curated an exhibition on them at the Grolier Club in New York City and produced an illustrated catalog. Currently, I'm working on a book-length project, and I also have a website that features scans of this material. My subtitle for the exhibition, A Revolution in Print, highlights my approach. I consider these magazines revolutionary in three key ways. First, being a scholar in English literature, I'm interested in the role these magazines play in America's literary history. They emerge at an important point when America is trying to establish its cultural authority vis-à-vis high European culture. With the passing of the Copyright Act in 1891, the growth of magazine production after 1893, and the emergence of visual advertising, this is a moment when there are more opportunities for Americans to earn a living as professional writers and commercial artists, and more are doing this in this period. The little magazines serve as a platform for experimentation for young writers and artists, but also as a stepping stone to mainstream work. Second, these magazines are revolutionary in terms of their design. They deliberately oppose themselves to ugly, bulky, mainstream magazines, presenting themselves as choice, collectible objects, and aligning themselves with beautiful books on the one hand, and with emerging sort of avant-garde art, like the poster movement in Europe. So in these magazines we see the influence of William Morris and the arts and crafts movement, of Art Nouveau, and of artists like Toulouse-Lautrec and Aubrey Beardsley, poster artists. These magazines will have an important influence on graphic design in magazines and books in the 20th century. Finally, these magazines are revolutionary in social and political terms. They emerge in a period that marks the transition from the genteel, gilded age in America to the modern values of the progressive era. They promoted alternative and countercultural practices and lifestyles, and we might think of them as the 1890s equivalent of 1960s hippie culture. In them we find proponents of free love, alternative forms of religion, holistic medicine, utopian communities, socialism, anarchism, environmentalism, and so on.